Again, my name is Larry Metter. I'm one of the Assistant Veteran Service Center Managers in the Houston Regional Office. I currently have jurisdiction over all three of Houston's appeals teams. It's my pleasure to be here today to talk about RAMP because RAMP is it's an exciting program for veterans that have appeals pending with the VA. Off and on, I've worked with appeals for about 25 years out of my 30-year career with VA. So it's when I started with VA, of course, I didn't have all this gray hair, but the appellate system was still antiquated at that time. So that gives you an idea of where we've been all this time. Next slide, please. As you can see from this chart here, in fiscal year 2001, just under 100,000 claims pending. Fiscal year 17, you're looking at 450,000 appeals pending. That is a very, very large amount of appeals, especially when you consider the process of the appeals program and what it takes to bring an appeal through to finality. So this rise in appeals doesn't mean that more or a greater percentage of our cases are being appealed. What it represents is the fact that VBA has become more proficient in making decisions the first time. With us making more decisions now than we ever have historically, that same percentage of appeals is, being appealed, and so that results in a actual number of appeals pending. That combined with the antiquated process that never seems to end. So that's kind of just some background of where we are in the appellate process. Next slide, please. There were a lot of people that came to the table to help try to decide where we were going to go in creating a new appellate process. First of all, you had to define what the problems were with the current process, and if everybody knew what the problems were, it takes too long to get an appeal through. As you can see on this slide, it was, veterans were waiting 3 years for a resolution of their appeals on average. If that claim had to go to BVA and BVA made the decision, then it was taken, on average 7 years. That is entirely too long for a veteran to wait for a decision on their appeal case. The reason for that wait is the entire system was too complex. The system was designed to never let that appeal end, basically. The veteran could continue to submit new evidence, and we would take steps to obtain evidence. We would do interim decisions, which the veteran could come back and find more evidence or tell us about where they thought we could get evidence. And we were obligated to go out to all these different resources to try to obtain the evidence. But it basically created a churning of the appellate process where it was very difficult for a case to get to BVA for them to make a final decision. Next slide, please. This is the current process as it exists today. Now, I do offer a week-long class on this. We will not go over all this today. I've got, some of my own employees, when I showed them this, they were like, oh, I didn't realize how hard my job really was. But there's nothing exaggerated about this chart. This chart truly represents all the different processes that can happen in the life of an appeal. And one thing you'll notice is that this maze has the ability to continue on and on and on. So it is quite cumbersome, it's complex, and when veterans want a decision on their claim, they don't want want to deal with this kind of complexity. Our service officers do not want to deal with this kind of complexity. It just does not lend itself in making good, sound decisions in a timely manner. Next slide, please. On August 23rd, 2017, the Veterans Appeals Improvement Modernization Act was signed into law. It basically created an entirely new appellate process. This appellate process is broken down into 3 distinct lanes. These lanes were designed to specifically address the needs of the veteran and his or her specific appeal. The higher level review lane, which is an entirely new review, it's very similar to what we've done in the past with decision review officers and the de novo review. It basically puts that decision or that evidence in front of a different adjudicator who could be a rating specialist, who could be a decision review officer, or in the case of administrative decisions, could be a senior level authorizer. But it puts that particular appeal in front of somebody else that can look at that case again and have an opportunity to come to a different conclusion on that claim. The supplemental claim lane, that's an opportunity for veterans and claimants to submit additional evidence or tell us about additional evidence that they believe is out there that will help them successfully process their claim. And the third lane is for a case to go directly to the Board of Veterans Appeals for them to make a decision. So those 3 lanes, they work independent of each other. There's some connectivity between them, which I'll go over in a little bit, but as they exist, they're 3 independent lanes. Next slide, please. Under the supplemental claim lanes, will be adjudicated if new and relevant evidence is presented. If the veteran alleges additional evidence, we will assist that veteran in obtaining the evidence. You'll notice all 3 of these lanes, actually, the effective date for benefits is always protected as long as they file their appeal under that lane within 1 year of the decision. Therefore, they don't have to worry about, not being able to get the effective date on their award that they're looking to get. It replaces reopening claims with new and material evidence. This lane here allows us to basically take it under an appellate lane without just filing a new and additional claim. The higher level review lane, like I said before, it offers an opportunity for somebody else to take a look at the case. We do offer a one-time telephonic informal conference period. That informal conference period does not necessarily have to be with the claimant or the veteran. It can be directly with the Veteran Service Organization or the veteran's attorney. A lot of times we have informal conferences with our VSOs now where they can tell us about any errors of procedure or law that they believe were made in the original decision. It's important to note that this informal conference is not to present additional evidence. Additional evidence is only received under the supplemental claim lane. It does offer the de novo review with the full difference of opinion authority. If the decision maker at the higher level review lane happens to notice that VA failed in a duty to assist the veteran in obtaining some information at the lower level, they will automatically send that feedback to the regional office that had the original jurisdiction of the claim as an error and have them correct that error in doing that duty to assist. And then we have the BVA appeal lane. This is an evidence-only docket, so appeal as it exists, the closed record goes directly to BVA. The veteran still has an opportunity for a hearing. Once they have that hearing, BVA will offer offer them 90 days to submit any additional evidence. And after that, BBA will make a decision based on all the evidence of record and go on to the next level. Next slide, please. In the higher level review in the supplemental claim lane, we're looking to decide claims in 125 days in these areas. Right now, I believe we're currently about 65 to 70 days on each of those in our RAMP program as it exists. But our goal is 125 days. That is substantially different than 3 to 7 years. And when we get to talking more about the actual ramp, you'll see that it's actually very doable. And it's doable because of being able to specify the lanes that are involved. It's being able to get that evidence in front of the correct reviewer and to actually make those decisions. Going directly to BBA, that's a 365-day average direct docket goal. Remember, BBA, they're taking cases from all over the nation, so it will take a little more time to get to them, get through them, especially for those veterans that elect to have a hearing. And then from BBA, the veteran still maintains the right to appeal the case to the Court of Veterans Claims, Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. So all the timelines from going from one lane to another, if the veteran requests a appeal under the higher level review and that appeal does not, or excuse me, that decision does not, is not favorable to them, then they have an opportunity to file it under the supplemental claim lane. And if they don't get the decision they want after that, they can go back to a higher level review, or they can go to a appeal directly to BBA. So while we're talking about, one of the problems we talked about before was the fact that some of these, if the current system doesn't allow for the claim to end. Well, this process here allows the claim to end, but it makes it incumbent upon the veteran to continue under another lane once a decision's made. And again, that's why there's a 1-year timeline from when the decision is made in each of these lanes. So that does give, it gives veterans the opportunity to have their decision made under 3 lanes, but it also gives them the obligation, if they are dissatisfied with the decision, to actually open it under another lane if they wish to do so. The current system, veterans may be satisfied with their claim, but if it's only a partial grant according to BBA or BBA rules, then that appeal automatically continues and keeps going all the way through BBA, even though the veteran may have been satisfied, several decisions ago. Next slide, please. Back one. Basically, the new process provides an understandable review system. Again, it's only 3 lanes. It's very self-explanatory from each one of the lanes. There are multiple options to choose, and those options are great because not every claim is the same. Not every claim needs new evidence. Not every, there are many appeals pending right now that have lots of evidence in there, but due to the number of appeals that are pending, we have not been able to make a decision regarding all that evidence that's out there. This, much earlier resolution of the disagreements. It's a clear start and end point for each of these lanes. That helps us really move a case along quicker. It gives good feedback. It also distinguishes the difference between BBA as a claims agency and the Board of Appeals agency. And it's a very efficient utilization of the appellate resources. Next slide, please. Basically, under RAMP, which started on November 1st, 2017, veterans were initially sent out letters inviting them to opt in to RAMP. The Rapid Appeals Modernization Program was an attempt by VA to actually bring people into the new process, which starts in February of 19, to right now. It allows these decisions to be made under either the higher level review or the additional evidence lanes as they exist. When this first came out, participation was very low. We were averaging 2 and 3% opt-in rate, and we discovered that the reason for that was basically a lack of information by veterans, veteran service organizations, and even, DVA itself out in the field as to the impact of opting into RAMP. Once we started getting more outreach out, we started becoming much more aware of the benefits to be had under the RAMP program, and veterans became much more aware. So the number of claims that have opted in RAMP has greatly increased. Participation is voluntary. They don't have to do it. And these veterans have the ability to do this from any one of the appeal stages identified here other than the SOC stage. Once a case is in the statement of case stage, they're required to file a VA Form 9 before they can opt into RAMP. Next slide, please. And this next slide is basically just a RAMP opt-in election. This is what the veteran would fill out if they opting into the RAMP process. Next slide, please. I won't go over all these completely. I believe this slideshow is going to be made available to everybody.
Yes, sir.
But the open, this is available to our veteran service organizations. It's available to the veterans and all of our partners out there. It just simply defines the different RAMP lanes, which are exactly the same as those under the new appellate process. Next slide. We sent out over 300,000. So far, we've had 45,851, or 13.7% opt-in. I will do a plug for Houston. Houston is #1 in the nation with opt-ins at 22%. Waco, y'all are doing okay at 15.
Not that we're competitive.
Not that we're competitive at all. And but Texas is well represented. We're well represented because of the relationships we've established with the veteran service organizations, the Texas Veterans Commission, and our many county service officers out there. And it's also by us going out and doing these RAMP briefings out in the field and getting the information out there. Next slide, please. We're just real quick, this is the result of some of the cases that have been, opted into RAMP. We've awarded over $59 million in retroactive benefits. Average days to complete, 98 days. You can see here the actual claim grant rate is very high, 28% and 27% respectively for the higher level review and the supplemental. I will say that RAMP will be offered under the 3rd lane beginning in October. So we will start seeing, RAMP will be able to opt into the BBA lane as early as October. They haven't given us an official start date for that though, but we're expecting that any day now. The next slide The next few slides basically have some Q&A. Take time to read these when you get this. It'll answer some of those off-base questions that you might have regarding this. But just as an example, I'd like Wally to talk about some feedback we got from one of our BSOs here recently.
Well, thank you, Larry. Yeah, real quickly, and you see me over here writing some notes down as Larry is the expert, and the reason for that is I use every venue I speak at to really, advocate for the ramp, the opt-in. And we had a real good success story here recently. A gentleman from the Valley who had had an appeal in since 2012. He opted in at the advisement of his Texas Veterans Commission representative, and lo and behold, 21 days later, after he had a hearing, he was awarded over $500,000, $507,000. His monthly rate went from $464 to $7,585. Okay, so I can't promise everybody $500,000 or they'll fire me, but no, it was a great success story. But there's a lot of success stories where people have been waiting on appeals for a number of years and opted in, and it was able to grant, and it is changing their lives. So.
And this opting in isn't necessarily because they're getting better decisions. This is simply because the claim itself is getting in front of a decision maker. And we've got so many claims out there. Here in Houston, we got about 12,000. I've got just a few decision makers compared to that. So getting those decisions in front of somebody that can make a decision makes a world of difference. Thank you all very much.
Right. Hey, Michael and Larry, we appreciate the information on the Rapid Appeals Modernization Program, and hopefully you have a lot more veterans that will opt into this particular program. But for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and move on and move to our next